Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the latest efforts in Georgia as prosecutor Fani Willis is preparing to make her big case to the grand jury next week. We'll talk to you about what is happening there. Also, should we expect to celebrate Chicano Heritage Month? I know that some of us might think, well, isn't there a month for those who come from Mexico? No, not really. We're going to talk about this latest with our sister Noemi Perez and why it's important for us to maybe consider having another month to celebrate the brown and the brothers and sisters of our brown community. We'll have that conversation. And then the big culture convo, folks. My conversation about the residents. We've heard from the mayor, we heard from the police chief, we even heard from the co-captain. But today we're going to have a conversation talking to some Black residents of the city of Montgomery as we talk about what happened on that riverboat. And we're asking the question, how is Black Montgomery doing? This is our big culture convo, folks. You do not want to miss this as we bring residents and activists on the show so you can hear exactly what's happening on the ground. Stay with us. All of that is happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. So I'm so happy and grateful that you are deciding to spend just a little bit of your time with us this afternoon as we have these very, very big discussions about what's happening at home and abroad. And of course, it's all related to the culture. So you can find it streaming on many different platforms. Of course, our home platform is blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, where you can find all of the past shows that we've done, all of the great programming, of course, Roland Martin Unfiltered, The Black Show, and many other great shows on that website. But you can watch all of our past shows, and we're streaming live right now from our home site of blackstarnetwork.com. So make sure you tune in. We're also streaming live on Amazon, meaning that on Amazon News, you can find us on your Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can just tell Alexa, play Black Star Network. And boom, we will pop right up there on the screen. So folks, make sure you check us out there. And we're currently streaming on all of our live platforms of Facebook and Instagram. Now, it is on those platforms that we become a show that's unlike any other. We hear it directly from you. So if you want to join us in the conversation, join us on our Facebook show, on Facebook platform under Roland Martin. You can also find us on our YouTube chat, which is the hot chat right now. We got over 300 folks checking in right now, and that number continues to climb. But we are streaming live on YouTube. Just look under Roland Martin's YouTube page, and you will find the chat, and you will find the great culture crew always representing for the culture. There we go. So I'm so happy to see Cindy D. McCall, Linda Jefferson, Deidre Hall, peace and to everyone. Anastasia Paget, thank you. Peace and love, Anastasia. My brother and Pastor Damon Blissett. Pastor, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, big king and queens. Who else we have here? Bridget Smith. Thank you so much for checking in, Bridget. Cindy, you say I'm always on fire because I said today is going to be a fire show. Guess what, Cindy? You are always on fire as well, so thank you. You don't like my music. Ahoy crew, I see you, sir. Thank you so much. Mary J. Pratt, and yes, God bless us all, Mary. God bless us all. Lord Jesus, we need that. We need that type of blessing on us. Patrice Marshall, happy Friday. Happy Friday, Patrice. Love to see you. Thank you so much. My sister, Pretty Brown Mimi, 726. Mimi, thank you so much as always for being a part of the conversation. And my brother, Conscious Thought. Good afternoon, Culture Crew. Good afternoon, Conscious Thought. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the discussion. Folks, join us right now. We're streaming live on YouTube. Let's jump right in. Let me share with you very quickly some of the latest around the situation in Georgia, as there is a major expectation that this case of that prosecutor Fani Willis is going to be presenting to the grand jury next week. What should folks expect? As this Black prosecutor, she has been maligned, she has been talked bad about, she has been drugged through the mud by former President Donald Trump. and his cronies, but she is onward, making sure that there is some justice coming out of all of the crimes that he has committed. She's seeking to possibly levy more than a dozen indictments against the former president. Woo! Here's the latest from CNN. Take a look at this, folks. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, she's expected to seek more than a dozen indictments when she presents her case regarding efforts by Donald Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in Georgia before a grand jury next week. Sources familiar with the matter told CNN she's a Democrat and has been eyeing conspiracy and racketeering charges, which would allow her to bring a case against multiple defendants. Her wide-ranging criminal probe focuses on efforts to pressure election officials to plot to put forward fake electors and a voting systems breach in rural Coffee County, Georgia. Now, Trump acolytes who took part in each of those schemes believe they will face charges in Georgia next week, too. People familiar with their thinking said, and Trump also believes he will be charged in the case, according to CNN. So he's already preparing for some indictments to happen, folks, by District Attorney Fani Willis. There she is right there. Many people are saying that it is going to be this case that is going to really see, this case will serve as the measurement of how serious the situation is. We know that Trump tried to make that call down in Georgia to the secretary there about, looking for an additional 11,000 plus votes. But now Fani Willis her case, even though he has other cases around the country, not just related to the 2020 election, he got that classified documents situation that he has to go to court for. But a lot of people are saying that this is going to be the case, whether it's like the make or break case with, compared to the other cases that already been, the other indictments that have been put on Donald Trump. This may be the make or break case that people are expecting. So we will see, folks. This is all scheduled to happen next week when she makes her presentation to the grand jury. Once that process is done, that decision will be rendered, whether they will move forward and actually filing an indictment against the former president. And if that does happen, first and foremost, y'all know y'all need to tune into Black Star Network next week to let you know to get a sense of what's going to happen. But if that does happen, folks, can you imagine if she's able to levy 2, 3, 4 different charges, some indictments on the former president? Now, he thrives off of this stuff. He makes money off of this stuff. But can you imagine? Here's a president that's been twice impeached, and then next thing you know, he's got like 4 or 5 different indictments on him for a number of things. Whew. Let me hear what you got to say very quickly, crew, before we take our first pause here. Meek checked in. Meek, thank you so much. You said we need her down here in Monroe, Louisiana to represent Carroll High School coaches. You got to give me the story down there, Meek. Let me know what the story is down there in Monroe, Louisiana. We love to know. Thank you so much for checking in. DeWanda Evans, you checked in. Good to see you, DeWanda. You said get them. Real simple. Get them. And that's exactly what she plans to do. You don't like my music. Thank you so much, DeWanda, for checking in. Welcome to the crew. You don't like my music. You said that means she's doing good. Hey, you don't like my music. She about, whew, this is going to be something else, folks. Next week is going to be huge. Thank you, dear brother. Appreciate you. Anastasia Paget. Anastasia, you say hello there to everyone. Hello from Atlanta, Georgia. Good to connect with you, Anastasia. Thank you so much. Folks, it's going to be very interesting, to say the least, how this district attorney, Fani Willis, is going to move forward with the case. It's going to be very interesting to see what charges she's going to come up with, and that's going to lead to an indictment. It's going to be very interesting to see how the former president. Now, like I said, he's already expecting charges. This is not a trial for Donald Trump. I'm going to say this, and I want to be very clear. This is not a trial for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's issues is a trial for America. I'm going to say that. It is a trial for America. It's a trial for the political system. It's a trial for the ideologists out there. It's a trial for the American citizen to try to figure out, is this the type of person that we want to be in the government of the United States? It's a trial for white America. It's a trial for Black America. He is a whole trial. A whole trial, not just the one in court. I'm talking about a whole burden. A whole burden. So we will see how District Attorney Fannie Willis moves forward. All right, folks, look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about the idea of having a celebration of Mexican Americans through creating a Chicano Heritage Month. Should there be a Chicano Heritage Month? I'm going to share with you what one senator, one California legislator had to say about that. Plus, we're going to have my sister Noemi Perez, to join us for the conversation. So, folks, stay with us. The whole lot to get to in the second 30 of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. All right, I wanted to have a conversation about something that is a growing discussion that's happening right now, especially in light of where we are in the culture, where we are in this country around the talk of history and heritage and celebration and denunciation. We certainly talk about those things, especially when it comes to Black history. But what about how this larger context or this larger conversation about history and heritage, how does it affect other folks in the country, particularly Mexican Americans? And folks, I wanted to have this conversation because I saw that there is a discussion right now happening both on the state level and on the federal level, where there is some conversation about how do we celebrate those Mexican brothers and sisters who are a part of the society, who have contributed to society, who are working to make America a place to live, or working to make America more progressive. How do we celebrate that? And this is what's happening right now with Representative Lou Correa, who is a Democrat out of the state of California here. He is trying to usher in the celebration of Mexican Americans by leading the charge to create a Chicano Heritage Month. And I'm asking the question, should there be one for our Mexican brothers and sisters? Take a look at this, folks, from NBC, where this Democrat is saying that he sees nothing wrong with celebrating all the different Latino heritage in the United States, but says there is a need to spotlight the historical and cultural significance of Mexican Americans, who account for 61% of Latinos. Now, although Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated annually in September, the proposed resolution seeks to place Mexican Americans at the forefront, recognizing them a month before. Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates Hispanics in the United States. Absolutely important, Correa said in an interview. But he added, is the Cuban struggle the same as the Mexican American struggle? Probably not. We have similarities, but it's not the same. Mexican American history, as Correa noted, is tied to the history of the Southwest, the farm worker movement, legal rulings such as the fight for desegregation, and activism such as against the Vietnam War and for civil rights. Here to talk to us a little bit about this idea and this larger effort, we have my sister, who serves as a political strategist. She's also serving as a national convener for the Latino Heritage Sites Action Network. My Sister Noemi Perez. Sister Noemi, thank you so much for joining us here again on The Culture. How are you, sis?
I'm well. How are you, Brother Farajii? Always a pleasure
good.
to see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I thought no person would be better to talk about this than you. So I'm certainly grateful for your time today. Let's talk about this, Sister Noemi. When we talk about this level of heritage and history, first, break it down. When we say the term Chicano, and I know sometimes folks will use the terms and just throw it on the whole people, just blanket everybody. But what do we actually mean when we say that?
So can I point out that African Americans, Mexican Americans, we're the only hyphenated communities, right? We don't refer to our Anglo-Saxon brothers and sisters as European Americans. There's a point there. Chicano is an amalgamation of indigenous, European, and African roots. Yes, let's not forget the African root part. And it's a community that has existed before California became a state in the United States. In terms of where the word comes from, the word Chicano is actually of indigenous roots. It comes from the word Mexica, which is a Nahuatl tribal word. And so it's an amalgamation of that. And Mexican Americans are an amalgamation of those components of our roots. And let me just say this, and you hit on a point, right? Where, at the end of the day, the why, oftentimes we have to remind Americans that history has not properly reflected our collective histories, right? It's a push that exists within the 1619 movement and the pushback, right? Mm-hmm. The pushback that exists in Florida and other states to try to change and revise history and how to educate people about the African-American experience, right? It's horrible. But part of that also includes the suppression of Mexican-American history. When we're talking about Chicanos, let's use that term Chicanos. We're talking about people that date back as far as the 1800s or longer. California didn't become a state until 1850. And that is because it was through the loss of the Mexican War, right, with the U.S., that almost half of the country was ceded to the United States. People forget that most of the Southwest and the West previously belonged to Mexico. And so you're talking about people who were already on those lands. It includes tribes, people who are descended from those lands, and people that were conveniently erased from the U.S. history books in those books. Why the here and now? Let's talk about that a little bit. We talked about the whole reparations movement last week, right? In terms of
Mm-hmm.
the importance of the work that our African American brothers and sisters are doing and developing the blueprint for other communities to follow. Well, this is part of that blueprint we're following. And so part of it is poking the bear to point out we deserve recognition, but also in the case of national monuments, heritage sites, since I'm a national convener on that topic, is pointing out that, geez, heritage sites do not properly document or celebrate our heritage proportionately as other communities do.
So let me ask you this, though, Sis Noemi. Let me start here. There's still some, I don't want to use the word tension, but I would say there's still some disconnect between Black and brown communities, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that, right? And you understand that you were in these spaces, you worked for the Obama administration, and so we understand you work in media. So the conversation between Black and brown, depending on the space that you're in, can be a contentious conversation. Yeah. How do we start to bridge the gap? Because I think I see something here that we need to key in on, which is, yes, we come from two different places, but at the end of the day, we both have been punished and discriminated against by white supremacy. We both have, and if people understood the history of Black and Mexican revolution for liberation, the Black-Mexican relationship, where we not only have been fighting against the same enemy in one respect, but there has been some partnership between the two communities that dates back for many, many years, whether you're talking about the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, and other movements that have happened, for our people. So why should we even have a conversation about celebrating Mexican Americans when some Black folks still feel like, you know what, our history is under attack? Can we get Mexican Americans to stand in solidarity to us? Help me to understand, or help bring some insight into that relationship.
So let's acknowledge that both our histories are under attack. And I know you mentioned Trump earlier. Well, yeah, remember that during his presidency, the president of the United States referred to Mexicans and was very specific about targeting Mexicans. That is a precedent that was set, and it was set in the here and now in terms of how Mexicans and Mexican Americans are treated. But bottom line, and it's the point that you're pointing to, Brother Farajii, is that there are some connected dots in terms of history of oppression, but histories, period. There is still no formal acknowledgement that there is an underground railroad that leads to Mexico, right? And formally addresses that component as part of U.S. history. There is no formal acknowledgement, right, of the component associated with African and African American liberation and the role Mexicans and Mexican Americans played into that. But the point is this, that we both of our communities have experienced historically oppression, and our removal or our redrafting in U.S. history books. I think that what we're seeing now is a response to some of that history under the Trump administration, where there was a push against Mexican Americans. And that there is both an effort by congressional members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, as they're called, and members at the grassroots levels, like myself, who are pushing to make sure that our heritage is preserved within the U.S. history books, within our national monuments, and that there is a coming of attention, if you will, of reconciliation at a minimum, to acknowledge that, yes, half of the United States at one point in time was Mexican and so forth. And there are Mexican Americans that come from that. You mentioned that about 60% of Latinos nationwide are Mexican. That is true. In the state of California, we're talking about 40% of the state's population is Latino. We're talking about a Congress member that represents Southern California. The cities that he represents include Santa Ana, Anaheim. FYI, the city of Santa Ana was the first to issue a recognition of Chicano Heritage Month in 2021 Anaheim did so this year in 2023. So it's a natural progression that the Congress member is working on to get it recognized at the national level. Back to your point, though, in terms of the Black and brown issues, it's part of the work that needs to be done. You know, there's no doubt about that. We cannot deny it. It said the same thing last week in terms of the conversation about reparations. Reparations is part of the work that needs to be discussed and needs to be addressed within the Latino community, and having our communities become more supportive of that issue. I think when people understand that there is joint progression and joint support that has value to our individual communities, that people become more engaged with one another's issues. We're separated on these topics.
Yeah, and I got to take a quick break, Sister Noemi, but you're absolutely right. We're more than separated. We are at a place where it's going to be detrimental if we don't find some resolution. If we don't find some resolution to the situation. Folks, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation about the idea. Should there be a Chicano Heritage Month? I would love to get your take on this, crew. I'm going to share some of your comments with Sister Noemi, and then we're going to continue the conversation on the other side. Folks, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking to my Sister Noemi Perez, who serves as a political strategist. She's also serving as one of the national conveners of the Latino Heritage Sites Network. And this is a group of professionals, Latino Americans, Latino Heritage Sites Action Network, but these are a group of Latino professionals who have gone throughout the communities to do the great work of preserving Latino history in many different spaces and in a lot of different ways. And so we are so happy and grateful for having our sister Noemi Perez joining us to have the conversation about the idea of creating a Chicano Heritage Month. This is the month that would celebrate Mexican Americans. This is something that Representative Lou Correa, a Democrat out of the state of California, is ushering and pushing for, because he's saying we have a Hispanic Heritage Month in September, but the struggle of that group of the community versus the struggle of Mexican Americans, two different struggles. It's necessary to celebrate both, but one should certainly be recognized as its own particular month, especially given that 61% of Latinos originate from Mexico. So let me bring my sister Noemi back into this, because Noemi, there's a lot of Culture Crew members are checking in, sharing their thoughts on this. Let me start off with something that my sister Pretty Brown Mimi said. Pretty Brown Mimi 726. She said, "I hear us saying black and brown, but I really hear Latinos saying black and brown, but they say brown all the time. Let's keep it 100." So I know that for me as a media professional, I often say black and brown, right? But I understand the sentiment that she has, that we're not hearing the same type of call for unity on the other side. Or is that happening? We're just not privy to it.
So let me point to, I think there's an underlying level or layer that your readers or audience members referring to, and that's the need to be more inclusive of Afro-Latinos within the brown community, right? So that's an area that still needs work. Let's acknowledge that. Let me just throw this out there, Sister Noemi. A lot of Afro-Latinos are suffering from, and I'm using this term, and so please correct me if I'm using it misrepresenting, but they're suffering from some level of identity crisis because they're not fully embraced by either community. Now, I've heard that Afro-Latinos, black folks say, well, you ain't black enough. And then the Latino community say, you ain't Latino enough. And therefore, they're kind of left in the middle. And then when they make a statement saying, oh, I'm Afro-Latino, depending on who you talk to in either one of those communities, you get a little acceptance here and a little bit of acceptance there, but you're not fully accepted. And I think that is the direct result of white supremacy and that poisonous view of the world, because that has brought more division in something that should be bringing us together. So I just wanted to point that out very quickly. I don't mean to take up your time, but yes, ma'am, certainly share that. Absolutely. So that component of you want to call it colorism within the Latino community, just outright racism, it exists. So let's acknowledge that. And so part of the black-brown dynamic is also about addressing the Afro-Latino dynamic within the Latino community. So the Latino community has a lot of work to do, okay? Not denying that at all. And absolutely, it will benefit the quote unquote black brown, i.e. African American Latino dynamic that we're talking about. It's just work that needs to be done.
Absolutely. Conscious Thought checked in. Noemi said, I would love for Ms. Noemi Perez to note that California became the first contiguous state to have a non-Caucasian majority population, power and strength in numbers. Talk to us about that and the point that Conscious Thought has made.
Yes and yes. So California is the first state in the United States that has a majority population of minorities, which happens to be Latinos. It is also, by the way, the direction in which the United States is going, right? It's in the future, we're going to have a population nationwide where the largest minority group is Latino, and where the dynamics in Congress, in terms of just how our populations and demographics need to work with each other has to evolve. And I think this is part of that evolution, right? Where we're poking the bear, our Congress members are poking the bear to say, look, it's time you start acknowledging not only this population for what it is, but its history within the United States. Again, I think that all of these dots connect, the reparations movement, this resolution, and some of the efforts in Florida and Texas that is pushing back on diversity efforts. And let's just say this, a resolution is simply that, a resolution. It is announcing that a month is going to be recognized as Health Month, as Chicano Month. You can have several resolutions for 1 month. So resolving that you're going to call it Chicano Month doesn't take anything else away from other things that are being celebrated.
Absolutely, absolutely. Janelle Fields, my sister, checked in. She said, until we embrace a coalition mindset, we will continue to bump our heads against the wall. We lack unity as a people, and that must be resolved. But we need to recognize the power of solidarity to win. Is that absolutely? Would you say the Latino? Would you say that the Latino community, do brothers and sisters in the Latino community say, "Oh, okay, we are disunified, and therefore we need to win"? What is the view of that? Like, is there talk of, "Hey, we need to stand in solidarity with Black folks. We need to stand in solidarity with those who have been oppressed," or is that conversation pretty much non-existent within the Latino community?
I think that over the past 20 years, a lot of the work that had already been accomplished in bridge building and in coalition building with African Americans went by the wayside, unfortunately. I think that during the Black Lives Matter movement, some of it may have become more divided. It's just something that just continues to be work done. Now, in the Chicano movement, when you're talking about the Chicano movement, that which we're talking about California, which derives from the 50s and the 60s, the Chicano movement has a historic coalition building work and movement with African Americans in Southern California. However, again, we can't deny that there are still tiffs that have existed over the course of time, and that we need basically bridge builders like yourself, Brother Farajii, to bring us together, right? And to mediate on where these issues become. We can't just walk away and assume that it's done, it's fixed. Year by year, day by day, the work needs to continue.
No, that's absolutely correct. And that's absolutely correct. And I appreciate that. And I'm wondering if there's this call for Chicano Heritage Month, will it open the door for Caribbean American Month? You know what I'm saying? No, and like start to look at other ethnicities and other groups of people who have, again, contributed to America, has made America the great place that it is, and then at the same time will be recognized for their contributions and what they bring to the table. I'm thinking that may be the domino effect, but what's your thoughts on that?
It should, and that absolutely should be the domino effect. I'll share that in Los Angeles, the LA County Board of Supervisors actually voted to have June be Caribbean Heritage Month. Right?
Wow!
And so,
wow.
So come on,
we gotta. I mean, Keena, I need something on that, brother, because a lot of people may not know. Come on, man, we need to do a horn sound or something. There we go. There we go.
I would expect, let's have some of your audience members chime in from New York and other states, right? I would expect that there are Caribbean, Haitian, Puerto Rican Heritage Months celebrated in their respective months. The goal is not to bump one group over the other. It's about, celebrating the differences that exist in the communities. But again, Congress, the work that needs to be done at the congressional level, it's really about elevating our heritage, Mexican American heritage across the board, and making sure that it is protected.
It is. And you know what? I love how you said this is Noemi, because at the end of the day, if we aren't like protecting history, and I try to tell folks all the time that people think that all right, we don't got to worry about this history. But if you disregard one group of people's history, then you open the door for your own history to be disregarded.
Yeah.
And we're talking about America here, right? We're talking about a land that has historically and traditionally have not really opened the door to anything else outside of whiteness.
Brother
And so
Farajii,
now we chugging along, and I'm happy to have the conversation. I'm happy to be feeling uncomfortable. I'm happy to even get into a space where there's some conflict or some, you know what I mean? But we gotta work through all of this, because I know, Sister Noemi, without a shadow of doubt, the moment that Black folks, Latinos and Mexicans and other groups of people, our Caribbean brothers and sisters, the moment we really start to move forward, and there have been many efforts, I'm not going to act like there hasn't been efforts over these years, over the past 25, 30 years, to bring communities together. We know, and we know without a shadow of doubt, white supremacy will be uprooted, and diversity in a very real sense will be planted.
Brother
We know
Farajii, we're living in a place and time where the state of Florida is trying to redefine what slavery was.
Yeah.
We're living in a place and time where books are being removed from libraries and schools. So yes, it's about making sure that people are progressing forward and making the efforts to progress history, protect heritage sites, excuse me. It's we have to do it. It has to be done. And for Mexican Americans, especially after the last administration, I will say that that push, it matters. And I'll say that the push matters for Puerto Ricans too.
That is absolutely. My sister Noemi Perez, I want to thank you again for joining us for this conversation. You are right there in the mix of things as a political strategist. You are a DEI strategist. You're a national convener for the Latino Heritage Sites Action Network. So we are going to continue to have these conversations with you, and hopefully it will start to change some of the minds of those in both communities to start working together. But I appreciate you, sis. Thank you so much for being so good for the culture.
Thank you, Brother Farajii.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, our big culture convo is up next. We're going to be checking in with residents and activists down in Montgomery, Alabama, because I'm asking the question. We've heard from the mayor. We heard from the police chief. We even heard a little bit from the co-captain about what happened through his report to the police. But we haven't truly heard from Black Montgomery. Now, since that riverboat brawl, what is happening, what has happened, and what is going to happen over these next few days, next few months, next few years, we're going to do our part here on the culture. So we're asking the question of how is Black Montgomery doing? How is Black Montgomery doing? With all of this attention, with all this talk of resistance and rebellion, is it resonating with Black Montgomery residents? We're going to have that conversation up next. So stay with us. A lot to get to in the next hour of the culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we are streaming live right now on many different platforms. Go to our home site of blackstarnetwork.com where you can get the live show as well as past shows. We're streaming live right there. We're also live on Amazon News on Roku. So you can just let Alexa know to pull up, hey, Alexa, pull up Black Star Network, and boom, we're right there on the Amazon News channel. So make sure you check us out there. And we're streaming on social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram. And it's on, Facebook and YouTube, excuse me. And it's on our YouTube channel where you can join us in the conversation and be a part of today's culture crew. Folks that are checking in from all around the country and some parts of the globe are checking in today as we have this conversation and for this big cultural conversation from one we just had before with our sister Noemi Perez about Chicano Heritage Month, and this conversation about how is Black Montgomery doing in light of that riverboat brawl that we saw last weekend. Folks, we want you to join us, and I'm very, very excited because let me just say this very quickly, then we're going to bring in our guest. This situation that we saw down in Montgomery has opened the door for us to have some very, very different or nuanced conversations about race relations, especially when it comes to the Deep South. And so, you know, we're doing our part here on the Culture and the Black Star Network to put out the call. And I will have to say, folks, this is nothing but God, that the response that we have gotten from people all over the country, particularly our brothers and sisters down in Montgomery, has been overwhelming to say the least. And I'm so happy and grateful to even have this platform for us to have this very, very real conversation. A lot of these conversations that we're having about Montgomery have been focused on the political side with Mayor Stephen Reed down there, the legal side, the policing side with the police chief down there. But very few, and I've been looking, folks, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, very few places have actually talked to the residents of Montgomery. Not just talking about what happened last weekend, but what has been happening for months and years in the city of Montgomery. And even though we don't talk about it as often, that is still one of the seats of civil rights, of the civil rights movement. And guess what? They are still fighting to this day, folks. Still fighting to this day. So we wanted to have this conversation because we wanted to make sure that in the midst of all of this talk and all of this chatter, we hear directly from our people and they can tell us how we should respond. It's one thing for us to be on the outside of the situation, but it's another thing for us to humble ourselves, to listen, to learn, and most importantly, to move out on a unified effort because we are in alignment with them, they are in alignment with us, and that's where the movement really kicks off. All right, so I wanted to just share that with you, but let's talk to my sister and my brother. We have some activists joining us right now, fantastic activists. This sister reached out to me and said, Farajii, let me share with you the real about what's happening down in here in Montgomery. She has been in Montgomery for 15 years. And she has a powerful story, and I'm so grateful that she's being a part of this conversation. She has served in our armed forces, She's a supporter of the idea of Black Lives Matter, and she calls herself the street prophet, the people's activist. I got my sister Tamasha Brown joining us right now. And then also, along with Sister Tamasha, we have another veteran, a Black Lives Matter supporter. He terms himself as a pan-activist. My brother Travis Jackson, he's joining us as well. So I want to welcome them both. Brother Travis, Sister Tamasha, thank you so much for joining us here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. How y'all both feeling?
Hey, baby, I'm good. I think I had about 5 cups of coffee. I'm ready. I got my children in the room. I said, y'all play with your activities. Because, okay, we're going to get in these digital streets. You know, I'm excited. I am excited. I couldn't tell you.
I appreciate that. Absolutely. Brother Travis, you hear me, brother? You get us live and well. We got Brother Travis. We got to make sure we're going to get his sound up right there. There we go. Brother Travis, we're going to get his sound well. Let me start with you first, Sister Tamasha. Oh, there we go. There we got my brother. How you feeling, dear brother? Can you hear us? All right, we're going to work on
one day at a time. Yeah, I can hear.
Okay. Okay, good. Just we got a little bit of a delay
right now, but I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay, good.
As I like to say, same shit, different toilets.
Same. I love it. Let me start with you, Sister Tamasha. When you saw the situation last weekend, right?
Yeah.
What was that all about? When you saw that, and then that situation, those videos went viral. You've been in the city. You've moved to the city. You're actually from the West Coast, from San Diego. Yes. You made the move to Montgomery. But I want to start with one element of your story before we get to your take on that.
All right.
You told me that your level of Black consciousness didn't occur in San Diego. It started in Montgomery. Talk to me about that transition for you.
Yeah, so when I was 18, I went into the Air Force from San Diego, went to Texas, and I was stationed in Abilene, Texas, out there, Taylor County, at Dallas Air Force Base. And so, you know, living in Texas, I was there 10 years. So I kind of noticed a pattern in my life where every 10 years I kind of would go somewhere new. So 10 years I was there from 18 to 28. And during that time, even though I experienced certain resistances to things and, you had quote unquote racism. And even though Texas is considered the South, it wasn't nothing like what I experienced when I came here. I moved here at the latter end of September of 2009. This was right after the recession. And me being military and with everything happening, I was running into the overqualified sector. Every job was like, you're too qualified. So, I was on the other end of the fat they were cutting. So Alabama had positions for police officer, for Department of Corrections, jobs they refer to you as a veteran that you qualify for, state jobs, so on. And I was like, well, hey, why not? So my roommate at the time came here, got orders at Maxwell, and I came along. I was like, hey, I called my mom, who was living at the time, and she was like, California ain't got nothing. They letting off janitors, so go where you're going to have a head. So moving here, I thought this would just be maybe a year or two. I'll come here, whatever. Well, the day before we pulled out of there, I was in Books A Million. And this is when you actually read books because everything's online now. And so a Black woman happened to overhear me and the roommate discussing Montgomery. And she could hear how moved I was to come. And I was like, girl, I've seen this in the movies and I'm just so excited. Now, my roommate was from Florida. So they were like, okay, well, I already know the South will move. And I'm like, nah, you don't understand. This is where Martin Luther King and them marched. And I was just going on everything that they taught us in our, critical race theory, education. I didn't know about the African of us. I just knew about, Negroes that were American, the general one paragraph of Martin Luther King, the 2 sentences on Malcolm X. But I could tell you anything about the Hispanic and the Indian. I could tell you anything about the Asian. I could quote their dynamics, break down formulas, but my own people had not a clue. So she looked at me and she was like, Montgomery is not what you think it is. And I was like, ma'am, and she told me I just came from there and it's not what you think. And at the time I was like, okay, I'm gonna put that in my pocket, whatever. We got here. It was I could say that my time here on a spiritual end has served a purpose. I seen where I needed to be here, but there was so much that I did not realize until the moment I stepped in this area. It was like I felt something in my blood was pulling on me and telling me that I needed to find out about myself. It had rained so heavy that the rain looked like tears falling. And I was just looking like, who the hell? I was like, why are the heavens crying? And I was staying in the Ashton Apartments at that time on the second floor. And I was just like blown away because West Coast don't see that. And my mama's Miami, so she used to talk about this. So I was calling all the time, like, Mama, you were right. This place is so wild. I see what you mean with the land, because she used to talk about how free she was. West Coast, you have sidewalks, and apartments is what you call home. In the South, you have a already right there mentally, you're shifted. On the West Coast, when you say house, you talking about my mama's house, that's an apartment. Okay, you have a porch, which is a little sidewalk. But from Texas on, you got land. So already I'm 28 looking like, what the hell? This is so much land. And I'm just like, I see now what my mom talked about. Well, fast forward, things kind of started to take a turn. Montgomery started to go through.
We got my sister. We're going to try to get her back on in a few moments. Look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, folks, I want you to join us in the conversation as we're asking for our big culture convo today. How is Black Montgomery doing? As we're going to be hearing from activists and residents of the Black community down in Montgomery as it relates to what we saw on the dock, and then even looking at some of the history and then looking at moving forward. So we'll continue the conversation on the other side. Stay with us, folks. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We are checking in and talking to some Black residents from Black Montgomery. We're asking the question, how is Black Montgomery doing in light of what we saw down on the docks last weekend? And what is going to be the next step moving forward? Because guess what? Nobody can tell us what the problem is and know what the solution may be other than the folks that are closest to it. And that's Black residents in Montgomery. So Sister Tamasha Brown has been joining us, who is a veteran, and she is an activist right there in the great city of Montgomery. But Sister Tamasha, you've been talking about your personal journey of coming there and realizing that things aren't what it seems to be, and that you had to go through a change in your thinking.
Yes, I did.
To adjust.
Yes, I want to apologize in advance. We are getting some of that weather that's coming in, so we have gushes of wind. So that's actually what knocked me out, and I'm cool with that because it's been weather-wise.
Sister Tamasha, when weather is whipping around like that,
there's some activity going on. So you better believe
Mother Nature's talking.
The heavens is talking. They coming from Africa. That's from Africa, that wind right there. You know what I'm saying? Like when I came here, I had a perm. You understand? I looked in the mirror, took some scissors and cut it off. You know what I'm saying? Because I just got tired of frying my brain. So, you know, I just didn't like the fact that because my hair is good. And so my hair used to be down my back. And so I really suffered from the complex. When I went Air Force, I used to be so proud to fall and run down the stairs to Reveille and think that I was a part of the American dream. And yay, look at me, I'm standing at attention. Yay, look at me, massa. See what I did, massa. See, I got it, massa. And now look at my life. The American dream was a nightmare. It didn't matter that I'm college educated. It didn't matter that I didn't commit a crime. It didn't matter that I wasn't robbing people. It didn't matter that I spoke proper. When I wanted a promotion on my job, they started to mess with me. When I said I own land, they started to mess with me. When I said I don't want your Section 8, I have a job, they started to mess with me. So it seemed like no matter what I did, I was running into this force. I moved to Alabama and met the African in me. And that was a process that took 10 years to really get ingrained in me. The past 5, I've been laboring and bearing fruit. I have a son that's 5 and a daughter that's 2. When my daughter was born, their father was messing around with fentanyl and he died. So I'm carrying 2 buckets on my shoulders. When I was pregnant with her, I was standing on Capitol steps protesting for my son. They don't care that he's special needs nonverbal. They don't care. My baby's gonna stand 6'3". He's going to be a threat. My baby's Black. He's going to be a threat. His mama talk. She's educated. She well-versed. She look you in the eye and she got clean teeth. It's a problem. And it's sad that I can't feel that with everything that has been accomplished here, the blood that has been spilled here, that the people cannot feel that presence and that respect. When that fight occurred, for me, it was the disrespect because that man spent 20 minutes really laboring with these people prior to all of the actual altercations.
Wait a minute, you said 20 minutes?
20. He spent near 20 minutes. See, the reason why, if you notice the footage coming from the boat is still, it's not really moving around, you know what I mean? It's because they sat there long enough to where they was like, what's going on? And they were still enough to even record it. It had been 20 minutes nearly that man was engaging. You looking and you see the Titanic coming. You telling me you're not finna move? I'm talking about they knew what was going on. They're trying to put so much emphasis on the signs and, oh, they knew this was there and it wasn't there and all this. And I'm just like, cut it out. You cannot educate people. Give them smartphones for government phones. Give us computers. You cannot make a mockery of our minds. We've created the chair that was thrown, the light bulbs, the surgeon materials and weapons and tools you guys use. We brought everything here so you cannot tell us with our minds that we don't understand that even though things are going on here, that's supposed to be just a little misdemeanor, a little tap. Because had that been 5 Black people on that one, there would have been a curfew. We would have had the National Guard out of fear of what they even thought we would have done. But they had them handcuffed and let them go. So don't make a mockery of our intellect and try to say that this man was just even picking on him or he was just being a butthole on his job. No, what I personally believe, look at his attire, because I know what it's like to be judged. I have a piercing in my lip. I have tattoos up and down my arm. I have rib cage tattoos. I have locks, baby, in which the Supreme Court said we can't have. Okay, I'm walking around as natural as they be. I'm profiled and followed around sometime because they may think I'm a dope dealer until they run my name. Oh, now they come back. Oh, Miss Brown, you're my sister in the force. But prior to that, my life was on the line because I fit into this quo. So we're gonna forget about the fact that I'm a mother. We're gonna forget about the fact, so it's so many stats to this. So this judgment that this man endured because he was wearing a polo shirt and some pants and a hat, they didn't see him as co-captain. They didn't see him in that authority. So that already is a perspective that ain't even being touched. Then we look at the engagement and how long it took, which led up to everybody actually coming around trying to see what's going on because the boat stopped in the ocean. So now fast forward, we see what broke out. And it wasn't like all black people pounced on him. It was more white people. I'm sorry for offending if I say white. So let me say it properly.
No, you got
the Europeans. Not to say the Europeans was coming out of the woodwork. So we came out the woodwork. When that baby jumped in the water, we didn't realize that the ceremony had taken place. It hadn't come around the town yet. So the way he glided across, considering the roses that was laid out, I was like, baby, look, it's on. That's crocodile water. So, I mean, there's so many things that was going on. So the disrespect. So to see that fought back, I was like, yeah. I felt and identified with the disrespect. You get tired of being profiled. I know several people that worked their asses off at HMMA, the job I worked at for 4 years, that kept me in my house, that kept me out the way. Okay, you work 24 hours a day at that job, whether it be first, second, or third shift. What a shame that when they get off, building cars, building Hyundais, building vehicles that people enjoy, when they get off work, they got to go through all of these police, all of these troopers that's coming at them because of the type of car that they have, all because they have success or they have a nice house. So even though they bought it, it's still like, hey, you don't belong here. So I'm not going to pull you over. I'm going to follow you around. So it's so many things that's compounded. The crime. Go ahead, baby, because I can.
No, I was just so when we saw this situation, we're kind of coming into a situation, but the atmosphere was already there. Like, has there been any other issue? Was there any other issue? Was there a particular thing that happened either that day or the day before that kind of precipitated that something like this would happen?
It was just sitting in the air. When you have and just being 100. Now, first, I want to say that I do acknowledge and respect Chief Albert and Mayor Reed and any of our political and social authorities because they are given those positions. We know what the Hebrew word says, that God provided. So whether or not they do right in those positions is not my problem. That's an ordained position. So to know that we have a black mayor and that we have a black chief, that's good. But we haven't felt that impact in black community.
So with that being said, what's your take on the fact that the chief and the mayor, Mayor Reed, Chief Albert, are both saying that they're still investigating whether this is a racial issue or not? What's the take that you and your comrades take from that?
Everyone takes a bit of a different stance because, again, I'm not born and bred here. So there's a lot of people that are familiar with Mayor Reed's history, for example. He's a generational inheritance of that office and political environment. So for people that have been here, born and raised and bred and fed, they're used to his father. So they have a different look at him compared to those of us that are from the outside that have been living here long enough, that have a dualistic view. So I do understand what he's up against. I do see the law and the twisting and the turnings as far as how it's worded. They make one thing very complicated. So the laws are so compounded. They're not quite clear right away, but there's so much of a history that they've almost neglected to address. And the more that they go around this, it's going to keep building. And to me, this fight was that tipping point. Mayor Reed is an awesome guy. He fits into a lot of the profiles that are comfortable. But as a black citizen here, I can't tell if I can't see what he's doing. We have children that are wandering around, not because they don't want to, go home and sit down, but it's because of there's nowhere to go. When I first got here, there was activities for the kids. The clubs used to shut down and turn them into little centers so they could just come and have somewhere to go, which would in turn give the parents a break, which would create that atmosphere. But then things started getting out of control. The police are tired. Some are really tired because as people, they understand what's going on because they have family here. So we have nepotism that's really heavy. So in my opinion, you cannot mom and pop Montgomery anymore. This is not a mom and pop business. You have to comply with the times that are changing. And if not, God is going to force it. They brought in Chief Albert, who is not a native of here. He's Louisiana. And there was outcries about this. And so people such as Karen Jones, who headed the activism up in Selma, which was in response to what happened with the fight. You know, people like her that have been here, Michelle Speaks that have been here, some pastors and people that have been here that have spoken. You know, these things have been going on for months. We're at 50 crimes, 50 murders that have happened. And that's not including the ones that are not reported. And every time we hold accountability, they throw the law right back in our face. Well, the
so are you saying are you saying, Sister Tamasha, that is the Black community, the Black Montgomery, is not happy with the leadership of Mayor Reed and not happy with the policing leadership of Chief Albert?
I would say that we are not happy with the way that things have been going from the perspective of we can't feel them. You know, we hear what they're saying, but we can't feel that we are being represented in fairness and that things are really moving the way that they go. They have no problem having press conferences for crimes that have been busted, which is good. Okay, it shows that you're doing something. But they also spent billions of dollars investing in new police gear and new police technology and a $20 million water park. But the community is saying we need more assistance on the home front. We need YMCAs rebuilt, repainted. We need high schools changed. We need, you know, things that are more intimate that actually apply to everyday living. We cried out to Governor Ivey. We need that funding. Instead of building prisons, please help us with on the ground. Because if your strength is your state, strengthen your people, they'll stand. But what's happening? People are moving. They're moving to Georgia. They're moving back to Florida. They're moving out because they can't grow. It's like you can come to Alabama to get yourself together, but when it's time to grow, you start running into the thorns, you know, and it's unfortunate. You know, there's a lot of pressure. You know, there's a lot of, you know, jobs that are not unionized, so they don't really get the benefit, you know, even though they work really hard. We just recently got raises for the sanitation department because they were so overworked during the pandemic. And I'm looking like, isn't this what we went through back with the bus boycotts and getting the union for the trash? I'm like, we've been through this with the sanitation marching. And, you know, some of this stuff is still repeating because they haven't addressed the laws. And so you have Mayor Reed and we're like, okay, he's Black. He's going to say something. Well, we're so used to people playing the game, we can't tell when he's real or not. And it didn't help with those recordings that was released.
And then you saying those recordings where he said what?
He had some you know, there are articles I would tell you to read if you want to read so you can gather your own, because I don't want to misquote the man. But just it was more a conversation that occurred. Someone recorded it. Alabama is a one-party state, so you don't have to have the other person's permission to record. And that information was released. And so Mayor Reed did address the conversation that occurred and provided perspective for his viewing of why that happened. However, the content of the information of the tapes is what bothered people, as far as him saying that, okay, he doesn't need the Black vote to get reelected. He doesn't need, you know, he's not going to really push things for Black community until he gets what he feels he needs. And some of these things that he's saying he needs, we're like, what is it that you need? So it's, you know, it's too much. The country just went over a whole pandemic. People were evicted out their homes. People have lost jobs. People have died. So there's some things you just have to stop and deal with in reality. And I'm looking like, when does your conscience, when does your spirit say, okay, God, you know what? You blessed me enough. I don't need to take from the pot anymore. Let me take care of the people that you gave me ruler over, you know, and it's causing, you know, the tension that is being experienced here.
Absolutely.
You know, so
Sister Tamasha, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to bring Brother Travis back into this because giving us some more insight as we look at what has happened on the dock, and more importantly, how to move forward with this whole thing. Because folks across the country, you and I talked about it. And you know about it. There is a clamor right now from Black people in other parts of the country. They see this as a quote unquote resistance. They see this as a rebellion. Very quick before we take our next pause, I want you to tell me in 30 seconds, does Black Montgomery see what happened on the dock as a resistance or a rebellion?
We see it as a resistance. We will not support anyone, trying to take anything unfair. That was a righteous call. It doesn't matter what black person, yellow person, that was not right. It moved you. People were hollering from the boat. So it's your moral duty to be that good Samaritan in whatever shape or form. So we took that for that. That's what it was. Period.
There it is.
Yeah.
All right, Sister Marsha, we're gonna put you on pause. We want to take a quick pause, and we come back, Brother Travis Jackson. We want to bring you into the conversation, folks. Stay with us, Culture Crew. I want you to share your thoughts on this as we're talking to Sister Tamasha Brown. We're talking to Black residents in the city of Montgomery. We're asking the question: how is Black Montgomery doing? This is a big cultural convo we wanted to have today because we heard from everybody else. But let's hear from the people who live there, who experience life in Montgomery, and who's looking to change Montgomery for the better. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side on the culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to PO Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking to our Sister Tamasha Brown down there in Montgomery, Alabama, and because we wanted to have a conversation with Black residents of Montgomery in light of what happened last weekend and all of the stuff that has happened over these past few days with arrest and everything else. So we're asking the question, how is Black Montgomery doing? And I'm talking to my sister who is an activist, who's a veteran of the armed forces, Sister Tamasha Brown. I want to try to see, and I know the weather is doing its work down there. And it's
Yeah.
and the folks, let me just tell y'all, I don't know about y'all, but you know how we are. I want to bring Sister Tamasha into it, and I'm gonna see if we can bring my brother Travis Jackson into this very quickly.
Yes.
But I don't believe that the weather is the way it is by coincidence.
Come on. Come on. Hey.
I'm gonna just say it
Hey.
like that. I'm gonna just say it like that. Because
Every
I don't
time.
believe, I just don't believe that the weather is the way it is by
Oh no.
coincidence.
Oh no, it's turning, baby. We're in a prophetic hour. Okay. Everywhere that we was taken and touched, everywhere that our blood was shed, you touched us, we are reckoning with this. I don't care what law you pass, I don't care how much paperwork. When the royal chosen was touched, okay, we understand the prophecies, we get it. Okay, but the breaking down and what we endured, even though it was allowed, he seen, he saw. So we are at a time where things are speaking. Well, I don't care how many laws. You can push us just like the children of Egypt, just like Israel. You know what I'm saying? So it don't matter. We just gonna keep multiplying and
There it is.
multiplying and becoming stronger. So it is what it
Absolutely.
is.
Hey, I want to bring my brother Travis into this, brother Travis Jackson. Travis, talk to us about what you saw after you saw this whole thing kind of play itself out. This resistance, this rebellion. What was going through your mind, brother?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, dear brother.
Okay, then. Yeah. Before I continue, let me just say that you do have a point. The weather there's no coincidence with the weather. You know, they may, try to mute our voice, but they'll never stop our message. So when I first saw the video, one thing that came to mind was one word that came to mind was a revolution. This is long overdue. This is what needed to be done. Basically, whenever I call chants, I like to call powerful chants at any rally, especially pertaining to BLM. And one of the chants that I like to call is, if you hurt one of us, you hurt us all. And what you saw what you saw on that day was very historical. That's long overdue. You didn't just see unity, you saw Black power at its finest, at its realest. The fact that somebody jumped in the water to swim, to take care of somebody, that's older than them, when the Black persons jumped in the pool and jumped in the water and swam, which, by the way, that water in that in that area, it's very deep. From what I've studied, it's like almost like 60 feet, like to 100 feet deep. So yeah. So for them to just jump in the water and swim, I consider that as our ancestors carrying him over to help another one of our people. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's quite prophetic. I saw that and I was like, okay, that's how we are supposed to be. We're supposed to, like Bret Hart says, the legendary WWE wrestler, the family that fights together survives together. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's something that inspired me. You know what I mean? And so when I also saw the other Black people just come down there and take care of business, against white supremacy. That's the thing that the media does not want you to know. These people were motivated by Trumpism. Trump came down there 24 hours before this incident occurred. And so down here, I like how the way you have the title, how's Black Montgomery, because a lot of people just, just like my sister Tamasha said, it's all about popularity down here. It's too commercialized. People don't want to go behind the scenes because they know there is the ugly truth behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And so when you get, before I get into that pertaining to the leadership, let me just continue on what I saw in the video. A lot of people may consider that as violence. I don't consider that as violence. I consider that as self-defense. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, point blank. Because we all know if the gears were turned, if that would have been a group of white people attacking Black people, there would not have been media attention. However, that's the white privilege. However, we, on the other hand, when we come together, and I would even include, Black and indigenous and other people of color, that's Asian American, Mexican American, and Pacific Islanders. When we come together, it's a whole different story. It's a crime. It's a misdemeanor. It's a felony. It's a civil lawsuit, etc. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when I see that, I'm just like, wow, power to the people, basically. And I needed that, you know what I'm saying? I needed that boost, and we needed it as well, that boost of motivation. Now, on to the leadership in Montgomery. Now, I would just say,
hey, brother Travis, let me ask you this question very quickly. You have been a lifelong resident of Montgomery.
I don't want to say lifelong. I am an Iraq veteran and I am a military brat. So therefore, I travel all over this country, and I've even resided 1 year on the island called Guam. So diversity and inclusivity runs in my family, and I'm also and I also have Mexican heritage in my family as well. So yeah, those genes are pretty powerful.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. And it's funny because in our previous segment, we talked about celebrating Mexican Americans because there's the talk about Chicano Heritage Month that's being populated. And a lot of our people don't understand that, like the link between Mexicans and Black people and Africans is a very, very strong link. It's a very strong link, and then you come up right behind that conversation, and you are personified just that as a Black man who has Mexican heritage. Man, you can't write this better you can't script this better. Go ahead, brother. I'm just feeling it right now.
Look, put it out there, Travis. Look, put it out there. Look, if we're gonna talk let's go ahead and tell the full story. Tell the full story.
Now, as the leadership in the 334, aka Montgomery, I must say that, and I will admit, I was on Stephen Reed's campaign, the first one, and I will admit that I supported him, and I still that tough love. I'm still there. You know what I mean? But I will say that the leadership here has been too commercialized because I feel like, I know, like I said, that tough love is too commercialized because a lot of people get this mindset, oh, it's one of the civil rights meccas in the world. It has the first and only lynching memorial museum in the whole entire nation. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Look at all these historical sites. You even got the first church that Dr. Martin Luther King preached at. It's still standing to this day. Stuff like that. But what they don't want to see is like the discrimination that Black people consistently face, the racial profiling that Black people consistently face. You know, even Black LGBTQ plus people, you know, like myself, that constantly, you know, has to look over their shoulder to make sure that I don't have rocks chunked at me. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then also, if this is a civil rights capital, then why is the homeless or our neighbors' population so high? Why? Why? Tell me about that. Tell me about that when we got a budget. The last time I checked was like almost $1 million. Why? I mean, something in the air is polluted with that. So, you know, but people don't want to go behind the scenes. They want to just, you know, put a patch on on a wound. And as we know, in order for the wound to heal, you're gonna have some toughness. You're gonna have to get some first aid. And right now, we need first aid in our city. We definitely need it because honestly, I mean, just everything that I just said is so accurate, you know, and definitely our school systems, it's just like they don't teach the kids anymore. You know, I remember when I was knee high, our homework used to be go get a newspaper, cut out an article, and that was kind of like the way that the educator influenced us, the importance of reading and how fundamental it is.
Hey, brother Travis, I want to stop you right there because I gotta take a quick pause. And I think you're right on track, big brother. You right there, and you understand the dynamics, especially as the person that is advocating and for this cause of Black Lives Matter, and there's so many intersections in the work that you're doing, along with the intersections that Sister Tamasha is doing. So I think that, you know, when we come back, as we look at this, just getting a little taste, and the crew is checking in from all across the country, and folks are saying, look, this is a problem. We got the same thing in Los Angeles. We got the same thing in Chicago, Detroit. You got, you know, weak leadership from some Black folks. You got this continued onslaught of attacks and assaults on our identity and on our bodies, physical bodies. And we are at a point now in this country, I think of Black America, we're at this point where we need to figure out whether we're going to fight back or we're going to just continue to be slaughtered. So on the other side, I would like to get your take from both of you as to what do you want the Black folks to do in this country to support what's going on down in Black Montgomery. Folks, on the other side, we're going to have that conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to The Culture. We have been talking about Black Montgomery as we asked the question, how is Black Montgomery doing in light of the recent events over the last weekend and over these past few days? We've been checking in with Sister Tamasha Brown, who is a veteran and an activist in the city of Montgomery. And we also have been checking in with Brother Travis Jackson, who is another veteran and another activist working in a lot of different spaces. Brother Travis, I want to get with you. We got a couple of moments left. People all across this country have been talking about what's been happening on the riverboat dock. People have been saying, of course, it's a resistance, rebellion. There has been some conversation about next steps, but I think some people are kind of comfortable with just seeing Black folks finally standing up against white folks in a big manner. But what does Black Montgomery want, Brother Travis? And this is Tamasha, I want to get your take on this. But what does Black Montgomery want from the rest of Black America at this time?
Well, we want the rest of Black America, we want them to realize that there's more to the South than just soul food, college, football, and civil rights. There's more to us than meets the eye. We want we want the rest of Black America to understand that we have been in pain for years and years and years. I would prefer that Black America would realize that had it not been for the Deep South, I'm talking about right here, the Deep South, there will be no civil or human rights acts or bills or any inspirations pertaining to civil or human rights across the nation. I want them to understand the South, the Deep South, like right here, the Deep South, it's more to us than meets the eye. Looks are very deceiving. Please don't come down here thinking that you're going to blow smoke up our, you know what, and think that we are not going to pick up on whether if you are an ally or not. And we down here, we believe that allyship is all about actions. Do not talk about it if you're not willing to walk about it. So that's all I got to say.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. Sister Tamasha, what is it that you want us to do? How can we be supportive of the work and the efforts that you, Brother Travis, Karen Jones, and many others are doing right now to make sure that this moment continues to be the momentum that we need for a larger movement that's going to bring some freedom, justice, and equality for Black Montgomery and for the rest of Black America?
Okay, I will say this in a certain order for the sake of time and accuracy. First, I would like everyone to take this to their own worlds, their own homes. Do research in your state where you live about the slavery that happened with us and how it pertains to you. That's very important to know how to stand. In order to stand for somebody else, you got to be strong yourself. So it's important to understand the land you live in and understand where you fit in that. So I would encourage conversation to start to happen. Second, stay informed. Some of the media is getting watered down, washed down information by the time it leaves from here. So stay tuned to this show for the next week, because there's going to be a lot of information coming out. There's still things we have not discussed that led up to the protest that happened in Selma today. There's Facebook posts, pictures we have of the family themselves going back and forth with us when they let them go instead of taking them into jail initially. So there's so much to this that led to this. So make sure you stay informed and support platforms like this here with Brother Farajii so that we can make sure we have a voice. We didn't know if anybody really hears. Shout out to Larry Reed as well, and for also giving us an opportunity. And third, I would say for support, just stay tuned with your cash apps and stuff, because everybody's saying they're helping everybody. Everybody say they got a GoFund, but we don't want to cause a manipulation to occur and these seeds to be wasted. So just hold tight and actually make sure that the places you are sending money to is actually accurate, real people that actually can help. So we'll have more of that information coming. But I would say for now, stay informed and have that conversation, because that's happening here with Montgomery being the skeleton of the nation. This is where the 13 colony prophecy was put into effect. So we have to consider how this place is speaking of what's to come. This was just a tipping point, like a bubble in a pot. So if this isn't under control, if we don't have these conversations as African, as Black people, and start and stop whitewashing this. Stop denying what's going on. Like, open your mouths, talk to your children. This is why some of this crime is going on. If we don't want the slave catchers, AKA your DHR, your CPS, if you don't want them to take your babies and take them to foreign lands and be taught at the hand of others, if you don't want them taking them in somebody else's house, open your mouth and start talking to your sons and your daughters. Okay, I'm 42 years old. I don't have the strength to do this with my babies 10 times over. They 5 and 2. Okay, I have to do this while I have the strength. Give them what I got while I got it. So I'm gonna tell you what I wish my people would have did with me. They were trying to protect me. So I'm telling you, you want to know what to do to help us besides support us and wait for us to stay tuned? Open your mouth and talk to your people so they can put the guns down on the porch. We can't unify like this and fight for this man, and we can't fight like this on our block. You know what I'm saying? So we've got to break the system down by not feeding them us. We can't be used as statistics. We got to realize we are that. You know, so we need to have we need to have a recognition, a recollection here with Elohim. We need to really tonight, tomorrow, lay down and really realize this happened to my life because of who I am. And if we don't make this change, this is coming to your city. Period.
Yeah, it is. Sister Tamasha Brown, Brother Travis Jackson, you, of course, are always welcome. But God willing, we will reconnect with you very soon, sometime next week, because I feel like more information is going to come out. But we need to make sure that our people get the marching orders. And more importantly, I don't want your voices. Y'all live there. Y'all experience life there. Y'all raising children there, and you got families there. Look, we're not in there. So we're going to be taking your lead. Y'all are closest to the problem, and y'all are more than qualified to determine what the solution will be. So this space is your space as we open up the doors to have these conversations, and most importantly, to empower our people to think critically about themselves and what we're all embroiled in this system. But I appreciate you both. Sister Tamasha, Brother Travis, thank you so much for the great work you're doing. We got to bring you back on to talk about Selma. We got to talk about Selma. Yeah. We got to talk about Selma. We got to talk about Selma.
Yeah, this went down. This went down.
We got to talk about Selma. We got to talk. I don't have enough time today, but trust and believe, God willing, we're going to talk about Selma. It's going to talk
baby.
about
Pray
Selma.
For us. It's hot. I got my shotgun right here. I'm talking about it's hot. It's thick.
Absolutely.
They playing that, try that in a small town around here, baby. Hey, okay.
I hate you. We standing in full solidarity with you, Sister Tamasha and Brother Travis.
Listen.
We standing in full solidarity. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for being so good for the culture.
Bless y'all.
Man, oh man. All right, folks, I got to jump off, but I thank each and every one of you. Crew. We got something going here, folks. We got something going. Look, if you enjoy the conversation, most importantly, you enjoy what we're working on to try to continue to bring you right there to the action, bring you close to the lives of the people who are impacted the most in any situation. Make sure you do your due diligence. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. blackstarnetwork.com. You can download the app for free on all your devices. But we're looking for financial support. And so I want to give a big shout out to all of those who already supported. These past couple of days, y'all been on fire in your support. So big shout out to Lean On Him. Welcome to Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. Lean On Him. Thank you so much for your support for Black Star Network and the culture here. We truly, truly thank you. But folks, download the app, support us, follow us on all social media platforms. You can follow me, yours truly, Farajii Muhammad, the real Farajii on IG and on all social media platforms at Farajii. So we're going to continue to do our part to give you the voices to have the conversations that you need to hear. Also, make sure y'all check out, I'm contributing for Afro LA News. So y'all can definitely check out Afro LA News, as I got my first feature story there talking about celebrating the 10 years anniversary of Black Lives Matters this year. We celebrated here just a couple of weekends ago here in Los Angeles. But I put out a piece about why we should accept and we should all be celebrating Black Lives Matter 10 years later. So that story can be found on AfroLAnews.org, AfroLAnews.org. We're going to continue to push it, folks. We're going to continue to push it. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Roland Martin Unfiltered, Friday night. You know how it go. But as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will reconnect on Monday for another exciting and powerful edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Love y'all. Peace.